In this lecture, we are going to authenticate QuickBooks from Salesforce. What does that mean is we are going to develop the Apex code to get the access token and store that access token into the custom metadata. So here are the steps that I have listed that we are going to implement in this lecture. Adding a remote site, which is mandatory for all the APIs that we are consuming. So whenever we are having OAuth 2.0 authentication for any API, we need to add two remote site settings. Why we need to add two remote site settings? I will explain you. And then what we will do is we will create a custom metadata where we are going to store the QuickBooks access token, refresh token, and other endpoint details. We are also going to store the application details like client ID, client secret. And then we will create a VF page, and that VF page we will be using as redirect URI. Why? Because in our earlier lecture we used a dummy redirect URI which was a blogging site. But if we use dummy redirect URI and we don't get redirected to our Salesforce org, we will not be able to execute our Apex code to actually get the access token. So what earlier was happening is we were redirecting to this site, and in this site we were having that access token on the top in the URL. But now what we were doing is we were manually authenticating with the postman. We were preparing the request and then authenticating, getting the access token. But this cannot be done inside a Salesforce. We cannot manually authenticate and we cannot manually use that access token. So what we will do is we will use a VF page so that whenever we will redirect into that VF page, our access token, our Apex code will run and it will return us an access token. And that access token we are going to store into our metadata. That's why we are going to create the metadata in the step 2. Then what we will do is we will create a custom label where we will be storing the master label of our custom metadata record. Why? I will explain you that in a bit. And then we are going to perform the step 1. Step 1 is preparing the URL, getting that URL into the browser, and then getting that authorization code. And authorization code again we will be getting into our VF page that we are creating. And then we will develop our Apex class to get the access token and deploy the custom metadata record. Because we cannot directly create a custom metadata record using Apex, so we have to deploy that metadata. We are also going to see that. And then we are also going to create a new method which is going to implement the refresh token, because we have seen that our token is only valid for 60 minutes. So after 60 minutes our token will get expired and we wanted to use that token again. We cannot perform the same two step again and again. So we have the ability to use refresh token to get the new access token and then again use that access token. So before we actually get started and start implementing each and every step, what I will say is this is very important lecture, not only with respect to QuickBooks, but for all the APIs which implement OAuth 2.0. So I will suggest please focus on this, and this is going to be the key thing for you throughout this course and whenever you are implementing any integration, neither Salesforce, any APIs that you are implementing. So let's start with the first step. We need to add the remote site setting. The very question is what URL we should add in the remote site setting. Again, open that QuickBooks API authentication document. Scroll down to that step 5 or step 5, yeah, where it is saying exchange authorization code. And if you scroll a bit down here, you will see this is the URL that we are going to hit for getting that access token. So we just need to copy this and go to our Salesforce org, and we will quickly go to remote site settings, and into our remote site settings we are going to add a remote site here. So I've already added QB token. This is my remote site setting that I have added, where I'm adding oauth.platform.intuit.com. If you again get back here, verify, you will see that this is the base URL, and after that we have some resource. So we only need to add base URL that I have already added. you can go ahead and add that. And then I have also added QuickBooks Sandbox. This I will explain you into the next lecture. We will actually implement, we will try to create some resources into QuickBooks from Salesforce. So this we are going to explain into the next lecture. Now step 2 is to create a custom metadata record to store the QuickBooks token and their endpoint details. So if you get back to our API and you go to QuickBooks Online, you can see that there are many objects. We have customers, employees, estimates, invoices, items. So you might want it to integrate multiple objects, or the company requirement, the company that you work for, having a requirement of integrating multiple objects. So what you can do is you can create a custom metadata and store all those details there, their endpoints for sending, for getting, all those we can do that. So how we will do is we will go to custom metadata types, and into the custom metadata types, again this is already there in my Salesforce org, and you no need to worry about that. I am going to provide you a package which you can directly install and use. You can just quickly have a look what I have created, and I'm going to explain you. So I have created multiple fields over here. I have created access token where we are going to store access token. The type is long text area. Why? Because access token is too big. We cannot store into the text area field. Then we have authorization URL. Authorization URL means for the first step when we prepare that URL and hit that into the browser. We have client ID of our application, client secret, and then these are some URLs like we wanted to get company information, we wanted to create bills, customers, estimates. So there are URLs and each field have their default values. What default value they have, I can quickly show you one of them, and we can consider all those. I will again show you as well. So once you will open here, you can see this is the default value here, right? Don't bother about these double quotes. This is just for putting so that it considered as a default code. What I have given here is version 3 company, and then I have just put flower bracket, which is also known as curly braces, realm ID. I said what resource I wanted to access. It is a bill. What is the minor version? It is the latest version. Basically this is nothing, it is a version, API version. This is something. This realm ID we are going to replace dynamically whenever we will be making request with the actual realm ID that we will get while we will try to authenticate. Again, if we open any other, I can open create vendor. This is again a URL feed, and I have again the same kind of default value here. So that kind of default values I have associated over here. And how I found that, what default value I need to put, again I can go you here, I can show you. Let me duplicate this tab and I will go to QuickBooks Online, or we can just click on this references. If you go to here any customer, right, if you click on this customer and go to create, you can see this is the actual URL that we need to hit, and this is our company realm ID, whatever the sandbox we have selected over here, and then we can select what minor version we wanted to select. It is 55. So now this is going to be replaced dynamically, and everything else I have put over there. And now base URL, I have also fields for having these base URLs as well. Then I have, you can see here I have got sandbox base URL, production base URL. This also have some base values for these default values for these base URLs we talked about, right? For production, this is the default value. For sandbox, this is default value. And then there is one field which is a very important. This is page name. This page name is the name of our VF page where we wanted to redirect. So I will show you like what we wanted to put over here. We have token URL. Token URL means the actual URL which we are going to hit to get that access token. That means in the step 5, this is the URL. It also have a default value. Let's quickly see here. Now we can create a QuickBooks record here. We can just click on manage. So I have already created one, but I will show you. Click on new. You can see here, right, the fields that we have given the default URL are automatically coming in. We no need to fill up those. Just leave these as it is. If you wanted to create more, you can create those fields, and you can put those default value if you want. And then this is the column, or we can say section, where we wanted to store access token details. Access token, refresh token. When our access token is getting expired, what is the realm ID, which is nothing actually the sandbox or production ID. What is the token type, and expires in seconds. Again we have sandbox, and you can see this page name, right? And then we have got environment, either we are integrating with QuickBooks Sandbox or production. Now let's cancel it quickly and talk about the actual URL that we have. Sorry, actual record that I have created. So this is the actual record that I have. And in this record, you can see I already have this access token and all, because I have tested this before. I'm going to edit this, and I will just remove all these access token, because I just wanted to show you how it is going to work. Next step is to create a VA page and use that VA page as redirect URI. So we have created a VA page for this as well. I have this, I can say, I named that VA page as QuickBook token. So this is the VA page name that we need to put over here in this field called page name. That is why I have given here as a QuickBooks token. Okay, and then minor version we wanted to use 55, and sandbox is environment is our sandbox. Now we have got these two fields as well: client ID, client secret, and client ID. Where we are going to get these details? You can just go to dashboards, and from the dashboards we will be able to see our application that we created. I'm using this application, which is SFDC Panther, because I have two, right? And then go to this key auth, you can see client ID and client secret. Just copy this ID and put this into the correct field. Client ID should go over here and client secret should go over here. We have given the label as QuickBooks Sandbox, right? Now next step is to create a custom label to store the master label. Why we are creating a custom label? Because we are going to use that custom label where we will be storing this. Let me first create a custom label and then I will explain you. I have created one. Again, I name the label as the same. You can name this label whatever you want. And I will just open this. What value I have given here is I have given QuickBooks Sandbox, which is same here. Okay, let's quickly, which is QuickBooks Sandbox. Now, if you wanted to change it, I just change it. QuickBooks Sandbox new. I'm going to make it like this. Save it. I have just changed this. Now what I can do is I can go ahead and change this value in my label. That's it. And rest of the code which is using this label will take care everything else. Now let's add the redirect URI and talk about what code we have inside our VA page. So let me quickly edit this. I have created this VA page, and in this VA page what I said, as soon as this VA page opens up, I need to check two parameters. One, the code, and the realm ID which we are getting for the sandbox. If both the parameter have values, then call a method which is being called through action function, and this method is going to call an fs class method. If you see here, I have got this action function, and this action function is calling a method called access token, and which is related to the class called QuickBooks util. Now what URL we need to add as a parameter, as a redirect URI into our QuickBooks application? Just click on preview. It will take you to the URL. This is the URL that you need to add. So wait for few seconds. Let the VA page completely open and then copy this URL. Why we are getting this alert? Because there is no valid parameters. That is what we have given over here as a alert. And then you can just copy this URL, go to your application, under the redirect URI, add that. I already have this added for this application. If I wanted to change it, I can show you here, because in the other application I haven't added that. You can just go click on add URI, paste that and save it. Now what we have done is, up to now we added remote site settings, created a custom metadata record, and again put those values into the custom metadata, created a VA page, created a custom label, and now our work is to prepare the authorization URL to get that authorization code, right? we already have prepared in our earlier lecture. We are going to use that same here. So let me quickly open that notes. We prepared this URL into the earlier lecture. Now one thing that you need to change is in this redirect URI you need to put the redirect URI that we have just used into our application or the VA page. Why? Because so that it can redirect into our VA page, and then our VA page will call the apex method on the load of that VA page. Okay, so we have just prepared this. Before we hit this, let's quickly have a look into our apex class, what we have developed for our apex class. Okay, let's close this. So you can see that I have already opened my class QuickBooks util. Okay, I have multiple methods over here. I'm going to collapse all those methods, and we will talk about these methods later on, one in this same lecture and other in the coming lectures. So let's talk about this method. We have QuickBooks access token. Okay, first thing what we need is we need to get the details of these, like what is authorization URL, token URL, client ID, client secret, what is the page name where we need to redirect, and then what are all the operations that we wanted to. For now we need these details. So for that what we need to do is we need to make a SQL on that. So SQL, for SQL what we did is, okay, this is the method QuickBooks query basically, and then what we are doing is this QuickBooks query here we have defined. There is another class called SOQL util, which has a method called build query which accepts two parameters. One is which object we wanted to query, other is what filter we wanted to apply, and this is only for metadata, not for all the objects. So now if you see right here, we are using the same custom label that we have created, and if we go to this class SOQL util, this class has, and this class is doing nothing. This class is just querying that particular object, all the fields. That means it is querying all the fields of that custom metadata record, putting a filter on based on master label, and then returning that query to us. This is what this method is doing. That's it, and it is limiting to one record. If you see here, we are just limiting query limit 1. So that is what we have done here in this class. This is very basic, just fetching all the fields of that metadata, preparing a query, and then returning to us. And once it has returned the query to us, we are using database method to query that record, storing into the list of metadata, and then again doing some checks over here. If it is having at least one record, then well and good, otherwise return null. And from here itself our code is going to return. None of the next line of code is getting executed. That is what we did here. Now here what we did, if you see here, we just trying to fetch the code and the realm ID from the URL, where we are currently, and where we will be currently in this page. In this page we will be currently after giving the access, after resource owner has allowed us to get the access to their account, to their protected resources. Now why we need, like how we are going to prepare that URL, let's quickly see that again. If you see here, this is our redirect URI, and this is the base URL of our org. If you have created your org might have some different URL. If you haven't enabled the my domain, that is going to have some different URL. If you have enabled my domain, you must have a different domain. So how we cannot hard code this into our class? So what we did is, with the help of a system URL class, we fetched the base URL, whatever the base URL we will be currently. Okay, currently means if we have previewed this application, previewed this VA page, this will be our base URL when we will be getting that base URL. After getting that base URL, what we said, if you see here, right, this is how it is, this URL is getting structured. Apex, which is going to be always and always static, and the page name. This is what we have into this field called page name. That is what we have prepared over here, and we said that this is our base URL. Now we need to send somebody. Why we need to send somebody? For this, let's quickly refer the document. if you see here in the body section, right, what we need to send is, we need to send grant type, which is again going to be authorization code, and it is always same. Code is whatever code we are going to get from the URL, and redirect URI that we have just prepared. And if you see, content type is URL encoded. Okay, so that is what we have prepared over here. We prepared a body, we said grant type is authorization code, put the code whatever we are getting, and then you redirect URI that we have prepared. And what we said endpoint is nothing, it is a token URL. Why? Because we need to hit some URL, and this is our URL for getting that token. And then we said in the authorization, we already discussed, it is taking some sort of basic client ID colon client secret, and which is base 64 encoded. That is what it is asking over here. In the authorization, it is saying that send me the basic information of your client ID and client secret, encode that into a base 64 format, which is separated by a colon. That is what we are doing here. We are preparing those client ID and client secret. Don't mess up with these. This is going to always be the first client ID, second client secret. If you swap these, you are going to get the error invalid client ID. That is why just be focused on here as well. And then what we did, we have encoding util method, base64 encode. It is always going to have a blob value. That's why we said blob dot value of whatever the basic we have prepared. And this is a very simple request that we are preparing. We already talked about this, so we will not take much time over here. We are going to talk about these three parameters only. We have content type. We need to set whatever it has been there in our API. We are going to accept as an application by JSON. Why? Because we wanted to have that as an application by JSON. And then authorization, whatever we have encoded here. And we already added basic here. That's why we are not adding over here. And then we added that body. This time, because it's a post method, and every post method must have body. That's why we are sending a body here, and method is post. And then again, we made some try and catch over here. Try catch. That's why we are, because it is a risky, it might be some catchy code. That's why we are putting inside try and catch. And then we are checking either the code is two-handed or the code is two-handed one. Then perform this logic, whatever the logic we have given inside that, because that is the success response. And if there is any error, just get that error and show that error message into the VA page, because currently we are in VA page. Now what we did is, we have this QuickBooks token. This is a class, very simple class containing few parameters. There are only 5 parameters. And what are all these parameters? Refresh token, access token. Let me quickly walk you through as well. You have prepared a body, you just send this request, and this is the response that you are going to get. If you copy this request, okay, and go to this JSON admin booster tool to generate JSON to Apex, go to your JSON mode and then generate here. You can see these are the variables that are getting generated. That's what I have in my class, all those 5 variables. What I did is, I deserialized that response, what we got, into my class, the object of my class. And then what we have is, I just created one object. I said a string and object. Object can be anything. It might be a string, integer, boolean, double, date, anything. That's why it said object. Why? Because if you see here, my access token details can be type of anything. These two are the text area. This is a double. This is token type. That is a text. This is again a text number. It is again a date time. So there are various type of data types that I do have. That's why I selected to use object instead of any predefined data set. Now what I did is, I just created a token map here and then put all these fields that I want. What I want this real name ID, the exact API key. If you wanted to see the API key, you can just go to your custom metadata, or you can install API key Google Chrome extension. Sorry, API names. All these API names I have used, and then against that, what I want to put is real name ID. What real name ID? I have got from this URL, and then I have expires in whatever the value that I have got, because this is expires in seconds. I said that expires in time. Now this is again a key thing which we need to focus on. We said that our access token is going to expire in 3600 seconds. We don't know when our access token has been created and what is the 3600, what is going to be the next, when our token is going to expire. So for that, what I did is I said whatever the time we are getting that access token, put that time with the help of system.now, add seconds, whatever the seconds I have got over here. So what it will do is it is going to add 60 minutes in the current time, whatever the time I have, and I will get the exact time over here. And then I can compare this field with the current time. If this field is having the value of that means if this field is less than system.now, that means my token has been expired. How? Let's say that our token is generated as 12 p.m. It is going to add and it will say that 12, that means it is going to have the value of 1 p.m. right? Now if I come at 2 p.m., or I can say if I come at 1.01 p.m., this check is going to see, because the value that we have is 1 p.m. in this field expires in time, and the current value that I am is 101. Then it is going to say, no boss, your access token has been expired, you need to refresh that access token. That's why the concept here I have put like this. Now then, whatever the access token I'm getting, I'm storing into that field. Whatever the refresh token I'm storing, I'm getting into that field. And then the token type, whatever token type, it is always going to be the bearer in case of OAuth 2.0. And then there is one line which I have written. Okay, this is a class create update metadata utils. And then again here I'm going to pass this custom label, because I'm going to update that custom metadata record, not going to create a new. I'm going to pass a custom label because whatever the value the user updates, I need to use that itself. And this is something I need to prepare. So let me quickly say here, I'll explain you that as well, no worries. So now what we did is we just prepared a metadata. Okay, what I'm doing is, let's quickly open this class first. And if you wanted to know more about this, there is an article that I have written on the same, how to create Apex metadata, custom metadata using Apex. You can go through that article as well. So you can just visit my site, which is sfdcpanther.com, and then you can search for metadata and you will get that article. Again, I'm going to put that into the resource section of this video as well. So here we are in custom metadata util. This is the main method that we are calling create update metadata. If you go here to QuickBooks util, you can see we are calling create update metadata, right? It is taking three parameters: one, full name, label, and the records. It says that fields with values map, right? What fields with values map? What it is expecting here? It is expecting API key as a key, the field API as a key, and whatever value we wanted to send as a value. That is what this map is expecting from us. Now what we did is, we said that create a custom metadata record, initialize that custom metadata, said that whatever the full name that you have got. How you are going to prepare that full name? Full name is always going to be like this. Go to the metadata. I'm here in this metadata. Open this. This is your object name. Copy this object name. To prepare the full name, you need to use quick object name dot whatever you want to put. You can say ABC, you can say XYZ, you can put anything. And then again label, whatever you have put over here, you can put that label over here. That is what we have prepared in this class as well. We said that we need to prepare full name like this. Whatever my object name is QB underscore metadata, and then whatever the name that we have given. Okay. And then it is, what it is doing is, it is just iterating over the map that we have gotten. And in the field, in the custom metadata, we are just iterating. Whatever field is, put a field, whatever value is, put a value, put that into a values, add that, and then it is just deploying. It is all standard classes and everything which are available in Salesforce. We don't need to worry about that. And once we do this in queue deployment, what it does is call this method handle result. where if we have got success, this is going to say success, otherwise fail. That is what we have. Now we have called this class, and it is just calling confirmation saying successfully authenticated, you can close the window now. Okay, so this is what we have implemented till now. Now what we are going to do is, we are just going to copy this URL that we prepared earlier. Copy this, paste it in the URL, just hit this window, and then it is going to take you. Make sure that whatever the client ID you are using here for preparing the URL, the same client ID you are putting into your metadata client ID record and the client secret. This should match, otherwise it is going to give you again the error of invalid ID. So I have two sandbox. It is going to ask me which sandbox I wanted to use. If you have only one, it will not ask you. You just need to then authenticate, and then you can see we are there in this VF page, right? As soon as we are here in this VF page, it is going to use our Apex class and see this message, successfully authenticated, you can close the window now. Okay, now if we get back to our metadata record, there is nothing for now. You can just quickly refresh this, and you can see here now I have got the access token expires in bearer, and here is the key thing for us again, which we are going to check into our code. So up to here I believe everyone is clear. Now let's talk about the second part of this video, which is implementing the refresh token method, because this is also again a very important concept. Now suppose that you have got that access token, you are making that request, you have scheduled your batch class or any class to execute or to run daily basis. You can see, right, you can imagine even after 1 hour your token is getting expired. So you need to think about a mechanism where you can refresh your token again and again. So first thing is how you are going to check if your token is expired or not. So for that we have a method called here check token validity. This is very simple, which is accepting one parameter, the record of our metadata, the object of our metadata. And then what it is saying is, if token dot expires in is less than system dot now, return your token is not valid. Say that, boss, you had to refresh your access token. This is just a 4 line of code. Initially it is true. If this condition isn't satisfied, it is going to return true and going to say, yes boss, your token is valid. If this condition is satisfied, it is going to say, no, you have to refresh your token. Now once you have checked this validity, you found that your token is invalid. How you are going to refresh that token? So now you have got this refresh token. Again, this method is returning something saying string comma object. Why again it is sending this string comma object? Because if you have seen that we have prepared string comma object map, because again after getting that refresh token we have to update that into our metadata. That is why it is returning the similar kind of information to us. Now we have gotten this token URL. First thing, let's quickly see how we can refresh that. Go to our document, again scroll down more a bit over here. You can see there is a title called refresh the token. Read that here. You can see this is how we are going to refresh that. Again, this is the same URL that we hit while we were trying to get the access token. So the URL is again going to be the token URL. This authorization is going to be the similar thing that we sent. Again, the content type, everything is going to same except this body. This body grant type is going to be refresh token this time, and you have to send the refresh token that you have, because if you get back to our record, you can see that you have got access token as well as refresh token. So you need to send this refresh token while getting the new access token. You need to prepare the body, grant type, whatever we had, refresh token, the refresh token that you have got into your metadata, right? And this refresh token is again getting that object of metadata record, so we no need to worry about querying and all. Now again, that prepare that request, okay, and then this is the map that we need to return. We have just created on top of try catch block, because out of this try catch block we are returning that map. If there is nothing, that means it is going to return a blank map if there is any error and all. Now just check again, send the request, check the status code either 200 or 201, then get that body again, parse that response into your class that you have created, and then prepare this time you will not be able to see the token type, because token type we only get while we try to get the access token. Now if you have seen, right, if you have noticed this, we are not using this inside our refresh token method. Why we are not using? Because after that we might need to make some web service calls, and we get the error called you have uncommitted work, and you have some uncommitted or pending work. Similar kind of error you might get. This is not the exact that I'm saying. I will show you this error as well in the next lecture. But this error comes, we will talk about more about this error. This error comes when you put any DML, do the deployment. So what happens if you are doing this first and then you are making the call out? So you get the error. You know, this Salesforce said that you have some uncommitted or pending work. Please commit or roll back them. This is something kind of error you will get, the complete error. Please commit or roll back. So how you can resolve this is first make this call out and then make these kind of activities later on. So that is why we are not putting these. So what we will be doing is we will be getting this map, and in this map we will be having that values, and later on after making the call out we will be using that line, that single line, for making the updates into our metadata. That is what we need to do. So this is it for this lecture. If you have anything, please feel free to uh, put down into the Q&A section, and we will definitely be more than happy to help you.